Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the channel today. I'm Dane, your host. Hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. This is episode 24, the final episode in my little mini series called Back to Back, the greatest album pairs of all time. Before we dive into today's band, yes it is a band, I want to talk about, in case you're new to the series or new to the channel, what are the qualifications for being considered, according to my humble opinion, the greatest album pairs of all time. Well, they must be back to back in the discography. They must complement one another. They must be companion albums. They must, to my way of thinking, be considered a double album. You can play them back to back. And tied to that is the second one, chronologically speaking, must pick up where the previous one left off, wherever they may be in that said discography. And they must be considered both seminal works. The optional one for the qualifications is that these two albums must be the peak of the band's peak. And what I mean by that is, whatever the band or artist's greatest album run is, these are the two best of that album run. And in my opinion, this is the band at its peak. Unfortunately, there's some stuff that comes later that's quite good, but never recaptures the glory of the band at this point. And so we're talking about Rush today, another Rush entry, if you will. And both of these were recorded at Le Studio in Morin Heights, Canada, specifically Quebec. And of course, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm talking about Permanent Waves and the follow-up, the wonderful follow-up, Moving Pictures. Now, let's dive right into Permanent Waves. Starts with Spirit of Radio. This is where the band is going into more commercial waters. And part of the reason why is, if you're a big Rush fan, you know that making Hemispheres was such a daunting task, with all the pitfalls of trying to do La Via Strangiato over and over again, and then doing it in certain parts. And then just Geddy's talked about this quite a bit in various interviews, right? I think the Dan Rather one sums it up nicely. He also does it on the documentary Beyond the Lighted Stage and that sort of thing. So the Spirit of Radio, 5 minute, just 1 second under 5 minutes and 5 minutes long. As I said, radio-friendly tune, hence the title of the song, perhaps. Neil's drums here, still complex and a lot going on, despite the brevity compared to what the band were doing previously with all those epic tracks and that sort of thing. The epicness has not gone away from this album, as you know. We'll get to that. Is this a pop song? In many ways, yeah, it has the hallmarks of a pop song, but there are other elements to it because of, like I said, there's the complexity of Neil's drums, and there are other bits to it that make it such that you can't give it just the label pop song. It's pop-ish in parts, but it's still got rock elements, it's got progressive elements, some time signature stuff going on. To the ears, though, it's a pop song, right, for the most part. Songs about artistic integrity. The phrase used is, modern machinery, right? I won't read the whole lyrics, though. Alex is playing with kind of that circular or spirally context to his guitar doings here. It's hard to describe, but that I just can't. I'm not going to try to imitate his guitar here, but it has a circular or spirally feel to it. But when Geddy sings the two words "almost free," that's where the best part of the song begins, because you get some more up-tempo stuff. And at the 3 minute and 40 mark, the tone here would very much fit on Moving Pictures. And then you get a slight reggae beat very quickly, where he says, or right after that, he says studio wall, concert hall, right? And then you have the applause part there, right? And then the solo after he sings Salesman is just fabulous. It's heavy kick-ass shredding from Alex here. And then you get a nice piano, which is it's brief, but it's a nice touch. And then you get the guitar motif to end the piece for the most part. This is a great song. It's not a masterpiece, but it is a great song. I do like it. Now, having said that, I like Free Will like 10 times more than I like Spirit of Radio, which says a lot about the song. The synths here are a prelude to the synth feel and tone we get with YYZ. I think they're great lyrics. The chorus is fabulous. It's very it's very Bytorn the Snow Dog like, in the sense that there's that return to what you have in that older song where Alex and Geddy are trading off licks. It's that battle between bass and guitar again. Geddy's showing his stylistic skills. Here's what I got. And then Alex chimes in with his. So this is back and forth. Very nice treat from the guys here. And then when we get to Alex's solo, it has that computerized mechanical feel to it. I don't know what effects he used to get that, but it's just fabulous, and there's nothing else like that in any of the discography. It's just beyond phenomenal, the guitar solo in this song, Free Will. Anyway, great song. Next is Jacob's Ladder. So here we're getting to some more typical prog waters that we know and love from Rush. Mostly instrumental with some sparse lyrics. The lyrics that are present, though, are dynamite, very poetic. There's a marching beat to the drums at the beginning of the song from Neil, letting us know of the upcoming battle in the sky, the storm clouds, right? And then when we get Geddy sing the phrase distant overture, that's when the song really takes off, and there's that shift, which is just superb. Alex's guitar is crying in bits. It's just fabulous when he's going into the more higher registers with his guitar. It's just so damn intoxicating and riveting. As a song overall has a heavy soundtrack feel to it, with progressive rock bells and whistles, if you will, to please us Rush fans, right? It has a dreamy quality. It's like a heavy Tangerine Dream song, is another way to look at it or describe it. Then the synths return, and you get the lyrics, all at once the clouds have parted, and Geddy singing in a soft way here. It's just fabulous. The music, the lyrics, the vocals are all beautiful. They work well with one another. The percussion returns after Pert's tubular chimes. Then you get the exquisite synths return, and then you get that stop-start with the drums and the bass and the guitar. Just fabulous. And then Geddy sings, follow men's eyes as they look to the sky. They're shifting, right? What a great way to end this. It's just fabulous. Then we get to shorter pieces. Entre Nous, 4 minutes, 38 seconds. This is Pert's take on relationships. Nice metaphors here for that. Nice chorus. Nice message, a good message here. Leave room for you and I to grow. Really good song. It's not great. It's not a masterpiece. It's a good song. Different strings, however, for me, I think is a masterpiece. It's a short piece. Got a great acoustic opening. Geddy sings about who's come to slay the dragon. Makes me think of Madrigal on Farewell to Kings, and this song I think would fit nicely on that. Has a almost quasi-medieval feel to it. Not exactly like Farewell, but I think it would fit. I sometimes call this to myself Madrigal 2. This is the closest I think Rush gets to a love song, unless you count Ghost of a Chance. I think here a little bit more so than that, but both those two songs are the closest overall. It's a beautiful song. I love when Geddy sings, what happened to our innocence? Did it go out of style? Along with our naivety, no longer a child. Some romantic sentiments here, and by that I mean romantic poets. The outro where Alex wails on his guitar, it's brief. I want more, but it's just so moving. It's bluesy, and it's heavy. It's intoxicating. It's just great. Overall moving song. I love it. Next is Natural Science. This is a difficult song to talk about, but I'll do my best. Some of the parts in the song in an interview. I see the interview in my head. It's Alex and Neil and Geddy, and they're smoking cigarettes, or at least Neil is, and he's talking about how some of the pieces here in the song, not the whole song, was part of what he called the Gawain piece, but they couldn't make it work, they couldn't make it fit, so they did this and incorporated those pieces into the song. So you have the acoustic intro. Geddy's voice is a tad bit back in the mix for a while, like he's in the back of the room. And then the song then picks up once Geddy starts singing, wheels within wheels in a spiral array, etc. The electric guitar comes in, and it's just kick-ass guitar from there on out for a little while. And then Geddy's voice seems to be up front in the mix once he says the word, how fitting, forward. So he's forward in the mix, and he says a quantum leap forward in time and space, and that's when his voice seems to be right up front, and he's in the front of the room, so to speak. Heavy drums are great. The riffs from Alex are great. The solo is at the 4 minute 12 second mark to the 4 minute 30 second mark. It's too short. Every time I listen to this, I'm fooled every time, even though I know it's coming. Alex looks like he's going to shred his behind off, but it's too brief, and then he stops like, oh, where did he go, right? And Queensryche does something similar with the drums on Rage for Order, but anyway, it is a great piece, regardless. Then you have a shift to when Geddy sings, science like nature must also be tamed. It meanders a bit from here on out, but it's a good meandering. It's setting up what's to come. And even though it's meandering, what's going on here resonates with me so well because the tone and the arrangement in general here sounds very much like what's going on in Signus 6-1 Book 2 in Hemispheres. And I can't put my finger on why, but it's very close to that. And then wave after wave sings Geddy later on after that, the denouement of the song, and you hear waves crashing and breaking on the shoreline. Just a great way to end the song. Great album closer, if you ask me. I love when they play this live. I love when they play Jacob's Ladder live as well. Anyway, so moving on to Moving Pictures. Opening track, that iconic classic rock song, right? Tom Sawyer. There's a resonance to the song that's all its own. This song for me never gets old. Every time I play it, I'm 14 all over again. And and music is tied to memory, and I start thinking about that year. That was, one of my, and I have quite a few most memorable years. That's in my top 10. When I was 14, might be my top 2. Anyway, so this song has a personal connection with me. There's a quiet drivenness to this song. There are great lyrics here. The solo is an, oh my God, what the hell are you doing, Alex? This is phenomenal. How do you do this, right? And Neil's drums, I could say the same thing. They're just phenomenal. The song just gives me chills every time I hear it. Just overall great song. Next, speaking of chills, Red Barchetta, that introduction gives me chills. So great. What's great about this album, like this one, but even so more with Moving Pictures, is the synergy between tracks. Just fabulous. Just fabulous. There are the track listings, right? Just amazing. Spot on, perfect. Don't change a thing. So Geddy's voice here is beautiful. It's a great story that Neil took from a short story that he was interested in. I can't remember the name of the short story, but I think it was the Philip K. Dick story. Anyway, I have a Philip K. Dick book over there. That's why I was looking that way. The riffs from Alex here are one of a kind, or kinds, I should say. There's the car chase scene that I just love. It's very movie-like. Will Romano talks about it in his book that I did a video on, where Geddy takes on the role of the protagonist, and all these songs have a cinematic feel to them, or a cinematic reel, right? Next is YYZ. The synths evoke such emotion and chills. The arrangement here is perfect. The whip / shattering of glass 2 or 3 times in the song is great. You have a mini bass solo that's quite phenomenal, if you ask me. It's a little too brief, but I get why. And then that's followed by Alex's guitar solo, which has a Middle Eastern feel, kind of reminiscing back to the Caress of Steel days, sort of. And then at the 2-minute 47 mark, Alex goes into this, after the Middle Eastern feel, he changes direction. Same solo, but he goes into a Van Halen-esque type shredding, finger tapping thing, which is amazing. And then you get the chilling synths return, which is just, chills return. It's just great. and then the guitar follows up with that. Then you're back to the motif of the song, which I won't try to imitate. It's just fabulous. And then near the very end of the song, you get Alex's guitar sustain. I can't imitate that. Sorry. And then the song's over. You get a few drums. You get that guitar sustain from Alex, just shrieking and piercing. It's just, oh, I want to hold on to that. And then da-na-na-na, and then the song's over. It's a great song. I'll be brief about Limelight. This is just, for whatever reason, this is a song hard to describe and talk about it, but I'll do my best and talk about what's great about it. The song has a rewording of Shakespeare's two lines from As You Like It or Measure for Measure. It's one of those two, I believe, which are considered problem plays. They're part tragedy, part comedy. So dealing with, we're an actor on a stage, all the world's indeed a stage and we are merely players. This is something, as I teach Shakespeare as an English teacher, this is something that crops up in some way, shape, or form in many of Shakespeare's plays, but even his tragedies, especially his tragedies. So anyway, this is Neil's take on being famous, the trials and tribulations. I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. He would not do all the meet and greets and that sort of thing. The guitar solo from Alex here is top-notch, one of Alex's top 5, if you ask me. Fantastic lyrics, so moving, and there's a great ending. The flourish at the end is great. Next is the underrated The Camera Eye, 10 minutes and change, so very proggy in a sense. A song about a tale of two cities, New York and London, and comparing the two, right? And contrasting. I will often play Led Zeppelin's Carol Cellambra and then this back to back. They're very different, but they're also very similar, not just because they're long and proggy, but there's just something, they fit for some reason, at least to me. Anyway, there's some really interesting textures from Geddy's synths and his Moog and his Taurus pedals here, and his vocals for that matter. This is a get-up song once you get to the 1.5 minute mark, give or take. There's a shift, there's a move. I gotta get up and move. The guitars, which is interesting about the song, is that the guitars are painting a landscape, as is all the other musical instruments. It's not just Geddy's vocals interpreting Neil's lyrics that are painting the landscape. It's every part of the arrangement is painting the landscape of New York and London in some beautiful way. The great main riff, which is the motif of the song from Alex, is fabulous. There are no lyrics in the song until 3.5 minutes in, which is, a nice way of the band saying, we're going to pull a Xanadu or kind of a Xanadu on you and let you just enjoy the beauty of the instrumental components. This makes a great prog piece, right? The pacing of the vocals, the bass, the guitar, the drums have a harmony hard to describe. There's some incremental repetition in the lyrics as we shift from New York to London, where a word here is changed from what it was when we were in New York. And then at the end of the song, you have the beautiful and majestic sound of Big Ben chiming in the background, and it fades. And this is a nice way to segue into Witch Hunt because it works so well. You get the dum, 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 dum. Again, Big Ben, so majestic to hear, even on a record. And then you start to hear ding, 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 ding. So we're into Witch Hunt, right? And then that speeds up and gets real creepy real fast, right? So those chimes, and you get the creepy looming doom written guitar that follows that. But before that guitar, you get the mob voices that are, cheesed off, just great. And then Geddy's vocal description of Pert's lyrics are just amazingly expressed, okay? So Geddy's taken Pert's lyrics and expressing them perfectly. It's a great Halloween song. It's a great song to play if you teach the Crucible like I do. And it's a great song to play for the theme, the message about how do we deal with so much hatred in this world. Especially the last few words. Innocence, etc. walk hand in hand, right? And you get that boom, 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 that bass is great. Boom, 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 boom. It's a great way to end the song. Next is the underrated Vital Signs. I love this song. I keep looking that way because the cat's playing with a whisker that fell off his face. Anyway, it's adorable. So anyway, Vital Signs. The intro is quite unique. I'm not even attempt to describe that. The lyrics I love to return to come back to, and there's so many different ways I can interpret the lyrics here. I've not tried this yet with my students, but maybe one day. But I play around with them quite often. And if I do decide to teach this or have my students interpret it, and eventually I'll put my 2 cents in, this song has a very transcendentalist feel to it, because if you're familiar with the Transcendentalists or the British Romantics, it's about deviating from the norm, not giving into conform. Don't conform. If you're going to be someone, says Emerson or Thoreau, be a nonconformist, right? So when Getty sings, everybody's got to deviate from the norm, what's normal, the status quo, however you want to interpret that. Very important, very good message. And then, of course, the song is rife with incremental repetition, because he goes from saying deviate to elevate, and then there's some other words I'll get to later on. Just fabulous. So the song is also about creating music, because Getty sings, people have mixed feelings about the function and the form, and then everyone's got it right. There's great rhyme here. There's great alliteration. Alex's rhythm guitar here is unsurpassed. Wow, it's just fantastic. Yeah. And Neil's drums, when the heavy parts kick in, like the last fourth of the song where he's just going to town, I lose it in a good way. It's just great. And Getty's bass, the tone, oh my God, how do you do that, right? I have a couple Geddy Lee pedals for my bass. I can get close, but it's not quite that yet when I do play the song, I mean. So we talk about Alex's rhythm guitar, Neil's drum, just his guitar in general here, Neil's drums, and Getty's bass. All three in the song are just like the heart. There's an eloquence to it. There's a firing on cylinders. There's just they're in sync. It's that synergy that I talk about on the show all the time. It's unsurpassed here. It's just wow. So when you get to the 3-minute and 8-second mark, which is about the last third of the song, the synths come in again, and then that's when the heavy drums, when Neil's just pounding away on the drums. Oh man, I wish I could imitate that, but I won't. And then you get Getty changing the one word from the lyrics, because back in the first half of the song, he says we got to deviate from the norm. Then he says elevate. Here he says evolate, and in Will Romano's book he talks about that made-up word, right? What does evolate mean? But then he says escalate next. Then he says elevate correctly again. Then he says it again, same word, elevate. Then he says deviate. So towards the end of the song, Getty's saying the same line over and over, but he's changing one word. That's essentially what incremental repetition is, if you're not familiar with that. There's other ways to look at it as well. There's different forms of that, which I won't go into. I don't want to be English teacher here. But so he goes from evolate, that made up word, to escalate, to elevate, to deviate, and then it fades out. Because the last thing you hear is Getty saying, everyone's got to deviate from, and he never says norm because the song is over. But it's a great song. Some people have said that they hear hints of reggae in the song. I'm not hearing it. And they say, well, it's meant to pave the way for the next album. Maybe, but I really don't hear reggae in the song. And even if there is reggae here, it's okay with me. Anyway, so here we go, everybody. Last episode of this little mini series. I hope that you've enjoyed this series. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And here they are again. Permanent Waves. Great album. Moving Pictures. Masterpiece. I will not have a video tomorrow. I'm going to take a short break but I will have something posted either Friday or Saturday or both days. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Bye-bye now.